For the last couple of weeks, I have been testing and reviewing these micro long-range 4-inch quadcopters, the iFLIGHT CHIMERA, the GEPRC Baby Croc, the Flywoo Explorer, the original based on Dave C's design. I've not known how to credit Dave C before. Someone in the comments said I should just call him the genius, Dave C. Works for me. And the Diatone Roma F4. And the reviews are like 30 minutes each. So for those of you who just want to know which one's the best, this is the video for you. All right. What about this guy? The Catalyst Machine Works Shocker. Wasn't that supposed to be in this roundup too? I had originally planned to do that, but after looking carefully at the specs for the Shocker, this is actually the 5-inch version of the Shocker that they sent me, but they also have a 4-inch version. But after looking closely at the specs for it, both me and Catalyst Machine Works feel like it doesn't need to be in this exact roundup. Both of these guys are a little heavier, a little more powerful, and maybe just don't quite fit in this category. So I will be reviewing the Catalyst Machine Works Shocker, both the 5-inch and the 4-inch version, to see how they stack up against each other, and I will compare them to these quads, but that is not going to be today. Sorry if that's the one you are most interested in. Let's take a look at the others. And the first thing I want to do is spreadsheet. Yeah, you guys like spreadsheets, right, ladies? And this spreadsheet represents the results of the flight time and range test result, because I think that flight time and range are the thing that many people who are looking at these quads care the most about. Here's how I tested that. I got a battery. No, it is not a 3,000 milliamp hour lithium ion flying for 30-40 minutes. I didn't want to sit there for 40 freaking minutes just hovering or flying up and down the road. All that matters is it was the exact same battery charged on the exact same charger to the exact same voltage every time. So every quadcopter was starting with the same amount of sort of gas in the tank. And then I flew them, and I flew them on the road outside my neighborhood, down to one location and then back up to another location, because I heard in the comments of some of the other videos that a hover test wasn't what you wanted to see. It was a range test. How far can they fly? Not how long can they hover in place. But a range test wouldn't be very fair if one was flying just balls to the wall and one was flying at a leisurely pace. So I used the GPS speed to try to fly them at as close to the exact same speed as possible. About 15 to 20 kilometers per hour was the speed that seemed to work for me. Seemed like a nice leisurely speed, but not so fast that you were like just crushing the battery and shortening the flight time with voltage sag. Now, this spreadsheet contains all the information from the testing, and if you're the kind of person who loves raw numbers, you can freeze frame it and you can look at this data all you want. But I think most people are going to be best served by a chart. And this chart is representing the endurance of the quadcopters in the tests. That is in terms of kilometers flown and minutes in the air. We can see in this test that higher is better, meaning that you were in the air for longer and you flew further. And the winner is the Flywoo Explorer. Next up is the Diatone Roma LR4. And slightly behind that is the GEPRC Baby Croc. Then the iFLIGHT CHIMERA is slightly worse than either of those, with the 3800 kV being slightly worse still. So we can see that the CHIMERA is largely being affected by its heavier weight, but also the 3800 kV motors are slightly less efficient than the 3000 kV motors, although not that much different, kind of supporting the idea that maybe the 3800 with a throttle cap could be nearly as good as the 3000. This chart shows the efficiency of the quadcopters in terms of milliamp hours per minute and milliamp hours per kilometer. So it's basically like a fuel efficiency miles per gallon for your car. In this test, because we're measuring milliamp hours per minute, lower is better. So the winner is the Flywoo Explorer. The Diatone Roma is slightly, almost as good, but not quite. Next is the Baby Croc. And then the iFLIGHT CHIMERA is worse in the 3000 kV and significantly worse in the 3800 kV. I do notice that the 3800 kV CHIMERA did significantly worse in terms of milliamp hours per minute and milliamp hours per kilometer, whereas in the actual endurance test, it didn't do that much worse compared to the 3000 kV. But if we look at the 3000 kV here, there's a much bigger difference, and I'm not 100% sure why that is, but those are the results. In case you're wondering about the flight time you would get on larger packs, remember, you can't just take the milliamp hours per minute and multiply it by your expected flight time or anything like that. The larger packs will be heavier, so the efficiency will go down. These results are not intended to predict total flight time, just to tell you a comparison, which one would fly the longest, all else being equal. So for people who care most about endurance and range, it seems like the Flywoo Explorer is the winner, with the Diatone coming up a close second. But be careful, there are some gotchas here. The Diatone has some problems. It has weird vibration, at least mine has weird vibrations in jello. And it's not a tuning thing. It happens even just on a straight and level cruise. You just see the horizon kind of going like that. When I spun the motors to check motor direction, they sounded a little rough. And my guess is that it's the bearings. The fact that Diatone ships this with the gyro slider knocked down a notch seems to me like it's consistent with Diatone also feeling like maybe the motors are a little rough. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. So unfortunately, no matter how well this performed, and there are many things I like about it, the flight control stack is excellent. The frame, I think, is one of the best among them. Despite the fact of all those positive things, I don't feel like I can recommend this one. Add to that the fact that the GPS doesn't work. More about that later. But I feel like no matter what, although there are many positive things about the Diatone, I'm going to have to set it aside for this one. Diatone is always working hard to make their quads as good as they can. I have every belief that they will come at this again, try to make it better. But for the time being, that's how it stands. What don't I like about the Flywoo Explorer, and what might lead me or you to pick one of the others? The biggest thing about the Flywoo Explorer that I don't like is the 16mm flight controller, which means that the OSD drops out sometimes because they're having to use soft serial. Technically, that's a Betaflight bug, not a Flywoo problem, but if they had a flight controller with more UARTs, then the bug wouldn't be affecting them. So there is a fix for that, but you have to go back to Betaflight 4.1, which is kind of like, I'd rather be running 4.2. What about the GEPRC Baby Crocodile? Who's that right for? I think for a lot of people, the Baby Crocodile is actually going to be the sweet spot of this review. It has nearly as good performance in terms of range and endurance as the Flywoo Explorer. Not quite as good, but nearly as good. But the flight characteristics are a little better. Even the Flywoo Explorer had a little bit of problems with jello and vibration, and others have reported this as well. I thought that the Baby Croc did a better job, slightly better job than the Flywoo Explorer. And I feel like it has a more full-featured flight controller. The GPS seemed to work really reliably. You don't have any issues with soft serial or UARTs. It's just overall a pretty good package. The frame is in some ways the least refined, maybe is the word. Like, the frame is so tall, and the way they put the Vista up there kind of confuses me, but I don't think that's anything that's going to affect you when you're actually flying it. What about the Chimera? Who is that right for? Despite the fact that the Chimera did worst in terms of endurance and flight time, I actually think it is a great choice for some people. If you go with the 3800 kV motors. If you go with the 3000 kV motors, you've got a heavier, more durable quad, but to what end? If you got the 3000 kV motors, you're probably not thinking about punchy bando bashing. Well, these are not bando bashers, but I think you get what I mean. The point of the 3000 kV motors is that you have increased efficiency and you can go fly in the sky for as long as you want, at which point you don't want the heavier frame of the Chimera. But I think the Chimera is really interesting with 3800 kV motors. You lose some flight time and efficiency, but you gain a whole lot of flexibility, the ability to fight the wind, fight a headwind when you're coming home, the ability to do some light acro and not have the quad just sort of fall apart. Those sort of mix it up. For a person who is like Dave C., who is looking for a pure long range up in the sky quad, the Chimera is like, what? No. But there's a lot of pilots out there who maybe are willing to trade off just a little bit of that purity of experience for a more well-rounded quad. My dog is at my window, I think. And the iFlight Chimera is a great choice. The GPS on almost all of these is really crappy. Why is that? Most, if not all of them, are coming with the BN180 GPS unit, which is just not a very sensitive GPS unit to start with. On all of them, they took forever to get a lock. They didn't lock in very many satellites. I have to say, the GEPRC Baby Croc seemed to do the best. Does it also have a BN180? I can't even see. I think it is. I don't know why. Some people have reported that they solved the issues by shielding the wires going to the GPS, that it's an electrical interference issue. I don't know about that. But that, in some ways, may cast a different light on Diatone's decision to ship their quad with the GPS disabled. When I reviewed the Diatone, I said, why would you ship it with the GPS but then disable the GPS? And Diatone said, well, the GPS doesn't work that great, so we don't want people to use the GPS and then rely on it and then like have it not work. But I don't like that answer, but I understand why Diatone did it. My opinion is, if you're going to put a GPS on the quad, figure out how to make it work. Don't ship it with it in a crippled state. So Diatone doesn't get off the hook, because they didn't figure out how to make it work either. But they were like, well, we're not going to you kind of are misleading people, because if it has a GPS, then you expect the GPS to work. None of these guys, the GPS works very well. I don't know what the fix is for that. I'll think, I mean, one fix is to sheath the wires with shielding, but that's like, the manufacturer should just ship you a GPS that works. I guess I don't have any more to say about that. Baby Crocodile did the best in that respect. I received all of these guys with Caddx Vista cameras except the Diatone, which came with a Nebula camera. The reason for that is the shortage of Vistas. There just wasn't any way to get Vistas, and manufacturers switched to the Nebula. So I wouldn't let the fact that one of these came with a Nebula and the others came with Vista sway you. However, you should look and see. You should, in my opinion, definitely want the Vista, and you should look and see which quads are available at this time with the Vista. I would steer away from one of them or delay my purchase if it was only available with the Nebula. It was okay, but the Vista is just better. And don't forget that the Vista lets you configure the image settings, including switching between high quality and low latency mode and 4.3 and 16.9. The Nebula can't do any of that. You definitely want the Vista. The Flywoo and the Baby Croc came with the self-powered buzzer already on them. The iFlight comes with a buzzer, but not a self-powered buzzer. The Diatone doesn't. It comes with a buzzer in the box, but you have to install it. So edge to the Flywoo and the Baby Croc in that respect. What else do we need to talk about in a comparison like this? If you are not going DJI, you're going analog, the video transmitters. Here is the information about the video transmitter output power. The winner is the iFlight Chimera, which has 800 milliwatts, pretty substantial. The Diatone Roma, 400 milliwatts. The Baby Croc, 600 milliwatts. And the Flywoo Explorer, 450 milliwatts. But I have to say, the Flywoo Explorer, they've had some shenanigans with their video transmitter where they were swapping it out for a Panda RC video transmitter. There seems to be some inconsistency over there. So I'm not sure that you're going to get what they actually show in the product listing if you go with that one. Price. Pull back out the chart. The prices are really pretty similar for analog. The Baby Croc and the Chimera come in at $180. The Flywoo Explorer, $160. It's the least expensive of them. And the Diatone at $170, right there in the middle. With DJI, whether that's Vista or Nebula, the price doesn't seem to change. You should really get Vista if you can. The prices are $290, $300, $310, and $280. Interestingly, the Flywoo Explorer seems to be the least expensive on analog, but the most expensive on DJI. I'm not sure how that works, but there you go. So that brings us to the end of the video, and as always, the question, which one should you buy? And I think I know the answer. Let's start with the Diatone. I think the Diatone would be the winner if it flew better. It is the least expensive. It is near to the lightest weight. In fact, it actually is the lightest. The Baby Croc is 1 gram lighter. So it's very lightweight. Diatone's electronics are very good. It does, oh, it's not lighter if you consider that it has the Nebula versus the Vista. Okay, but it's lightweight, that's my point. Has great electronics. Diatone's electronics are really good. The frame, I really like the way the frame is designed. It looks nice. It flew for a long freaking time. The problem is it flew badly. And Diatone actually literally just this morning I saw in their Facebook group, they posted some changes to make to the ESC configuration, to the PID tuning, and they even posted a thing you could do to fix the shielding on the ESC to try and get the GPS working better. So they're trying. And I think that if Diatone can get this flying well and get the GPS working, this would be my pick. But as of today, those things aren't true, so we're going to move on. If what you care about first and foremost is that pure vision of the lightweight 4-inch long-range quad, you got to go with the Flywoo Explorer. The Flywoo Explorer flew the longest, it flew the furthest, and it is the closest to the genius Dave C's. I'm going to give him a big head. It's the closest to Dave C's original design. And thankfully, it also, shows how good Dave C is, that his original design won along those axes that it was designed to win on. Good job, Dave. The weakness, I think, of this one is the electronics, that they shipped it with a 16 millimeter flight controller and ESC. Just, even Dave C doesn't use 16 millimeter. He uses 20, I believe. And the soft serial is really flaky, so you have to go back. It's Betaflight's fault, but whatever. If they didn't use a 16 millimeter flight controller, then that wouldn't have been a problem. So a lot of people are going to pick this one, but I'm not sure it's the one that I would pick because of those caveats. And because I am not first and foremost interested in flying for 40 freaking minutes. I get bored after 10 or 11 or 12 minutes and I don't know what to do with myself. So any of these quads would give me enough flight time that I wouldn't be too concerned. And that leaves these two guys. And I think that if I was concerned with long flight time, I would probably pick the GEPRC Baby Crocodile. This one didn't knock my socks off along any axis, but it did everything pretty well, with the exception that it seemed to have slightly less range, maybe due to its antenna. I guess you got to acknowledge that. But it flew really well. It had reasonable performance and power. It had reasonable endurance. The frame is pretty well put together, the electronics and so forth. I just feel like the GEPRC Baby Crocodile might be the one that I would pick if I were concerned with endurance. But I'm mostly not. I actually think the one that I would pick as my personal choice would be the IFLIGHT CHIMERA. I love the fact that with the 3800 kV motors, you have the option to get a little more punch and power and speed if you want to. If you treat this like a freestyle quad and you smash it against the wall a million times, it won't hold up like a full weight 5-inch. But this guy can fly for at least 30 minutes if you put a big 3000 milliamp hour lithium ion pack on it, and it can fly for easily 10, 11. I don't know. I don't remember the test, but with like an 850 milliamp hour 4S, you can get plenty of flight time, plenty of fun, plenty of range. I really like iFlight's electronics. Their frame design is simple and durable. The GPS mostly worked. I guess the main thing I would complain about on this one, if I had to complain, is that it doesn't come with a self-powered buzzer. It'd be nice to have that, like all the others do. And this mount here for the crossfire puts the crossfire so close to the... I wish they lowered it down a couple millimeters. And if you land too hard, this goes boop, and it pulls out this wire, and your GPS comes unplugged. So those are kind of little things. But I think in terms of flight style, the Chimera would be the one that I would pick. But if you don't agree, that's okay, because my goal is not to tell you which one I would buy or which one you should buy, but to give you the information that you need to decide which one is best for you. And I hope that I have done that. I hope that I've done that. If you decide to buy, dagnabbit. If you decide to buy one of these, there are links in the video description to all of them. They are affiliate links. If you purchase one of these guys, or if you purchase anything else, after you click one of these links, just click the link, make a purchase. I get a small commission. It's an easy way for you to support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. Just puts a little bit of money in my pocket. I sure do appreciate that. In addition to that, there's a playlist in the video description to my full review of all of these guys if you want to get a closer look at any of them. Thank you so much for watching. That's going to do it. Happy flying. Oh, and don't forget. And don't forget. Catalyst Machine Works Shocker 4-inch and 5-inch review is coming. Sorry I couldn't get into this one, but there were reasons. And that is coming as well. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to make sure you don't miss it. Thanks for watching. Happy flying.
You guys, I don't know where I am, and I don't know what's going to happen, but if I don't make it out of this, I just want to know that you subscribe to my channel, or maybe join my Patreon, or click one of these videos I picked out for you.